Devon, you could step in until
All
he's
right,
okay.
got it. I was trying to be gentlemanly, you know. Yeah. So real quick, I didn't have much more to add. I just wanted to point out because Brother Logic broke that down. And that's that actually a term I got from them. Where we call Marcus Garvey the Messiah of mission drift, right? So, um, yeah, but at every point in turn, like when I, just looking, like I said, looking through this history, which is so fascinating. When you look at in the days of Callie House, you had the ACS, the American Colonization Society, and then during Queen Mother Moore's Day, you had Garvey and Back to Africa movement and things of that nature. And now we got these modern day Pan Africanists that are just trying to smother us with blanket blackness, right? And though the point I'm making is that at every turn where we were looking to have our debts paid by the federal government who owes it, there have always been factions of, and I'll say us in quotations, that have been pushing that, oh no, we just need to go back to Africa, or you need to just renounce your Americanness, or this country isn't for you. And I wanted to just talk to Zine because I know she was saying that when she talked about how the other groups that got reparations were united, we weren't. I think, and this is just my personal opinion, I think we have to be very, very careful on who we categorize as we and us. And so, as we are taking on this fight, and as we are pushing for our restorative justice and our debt to be paid, like us are the people that are in the fight with us. Us are the people that believe in reparations and are fighting to get it, or allying with us in any way. That's the us that we are going to count as us. Just because someone looks like us, has dark skin or melanin, or maybe even a family member of ours, if they are against reparations, then they are not us. I put up a tweet the other day and I was like, in this reparations fight, we are the us and they are the them, right? And that's it. It's us and them. If you ever played spades and you wrote that down on the sheet, you know who us is and you know who them are. Them are not us and we are not them, right? And so I just want us to be very, very clear because there's always been that movement. And I'll say this lastly because I know that's how quote unquote Pan-Africanism is framed, right? That it's supposed to form up this huge coalition, this huge body of African people all over the world that's going to fight against white supremacy. The only issue with that is that Black Americans, the freedmen, we have been forged in the fires, right? In the stomach acid, in the belly of the beast of white supremacy. So not only do we know it better than anybody else, but we're the only demographic of quote unquote blackness that's ever stood up against it and have fought it since our existence came to be. And I'm pointing it out because at every turn, when you look at these organizations and all these movements that are saying, oh no, renounce your Americanness and just go back to Africa, regardless of whether or not you truly are connected there, and the country that they're trying to send you to is where the tribe was that sold our people, like Arthur Ward just eloquently stated. The bottom line is that at every turn, the ACS, Garvey's Back to Africa movement, and if we're going to be real specific, I haven't seen the documentation yet, but I would bet my last dollar on it. These modern day Pan-Africanists, at every turn, all these Back to Africa movements and organizations have been supported by who we would call white supremacists. So if the goal is to form up so that we can fight against white supremacy, but white supremacists endorse and are in support of your movement for us to get up out of here, the math ain't mathing. And I'll just say that.
Boom, there it is. Thank you so much, Devon. That's bars. You
Well,
also
you know what,
reminded me of
Devon?
something that. Hold on a second, Arthur. I gotta say
Go
it while I'm thinking about it. That's the other thing. Dealing with a lot of the Pan Africanists, you're looking and saying, okay, they want. I mean, we've been a problem in this country since 1863. We've been a problem. We are the problem that won't go away because we're American citizens that built the country that are due reparations, and they're trying to find a way for us to get the hell up out of here. And one of the ways to get the hell up out of here is for us to voluntarily say, I'm tired of this, I'm leaving, I'm out of here. And when you do go to Africa or you go to the Bahamas or you leave and go wherever else you you go, then you're basically giving up your reparations claim, justice claim, and you're not fighting for it and the legacy of your ancestors, of our ancestors. So that's something that's in the trick bag, right? You're giving that up. I've spoken to other Pan-Africanists, and they're saying, "Oh, well, why don't we just share with this? This is my friend. They're from the Virgin Islands. They're from Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica. Why don't you talk like that after we get our reparations checks? You can give them your entire reparations check, all for all I care. But to sit here and just determine that, oh well, we're not going to accept reparations unless it includes everybody that has the chemical of melanin in their skin, who lives in America, it's just foolishness. It doesn't make sense. It's off code behavior. And to really push for that is off code behavior, even for Queen Mother Audley Moore. So I want you guys to go to By the People Media. It's a big red button on that first page. Pull up the document, download it, and be able to talk with some power about what you're talking about with your friends who are Pan Africans. Brother Logic.
Peace, peace. Yeah, I just wanted to say too. I think we have to. I think the Pan African connection or the continental African component is the wrong focus when we talk about coalition and building support for our plight here. One, because there really is no historical, pertinent precedence for that being an effective coalition here in America for freedom and progress. And I think with this Pan African ideology, it saturates the way we look at everything and blinds us racially. Everything, you can't think of anything. You abandon your nationality, you abandon your political status, and you solely look at things through a colored lens. And everything's about colorism and not nationality and political status for you. But if you look at the actual history of American freedmen progress from slaves to freedmen, which Dr. Darity and our co-founder Ali just wrote a new paper that's going to be released called "From Slaves to Freedmen." If y'all, when that comes out, I really encourage y'all to read that work. If you look at what that journey, right? If you look at that journey, even all the way up to you know Dr. King and the civil rights movement of the '60s, the strongest coalition force it has always been Americans, quote unquote, freedmen Americans, and like those early native white Americans, right? I mean, regardless to how we may like that or under like how that may make some people feel because of how we feel about white folks and white supremacy, these are the undeniable facts. The Underground Railroad would have not been successful without, those white Americans who understood that ending slavery was for the betterment of the American interest. Now, whether those interests always align with the true interests of the freedmen, that's another issue. But when we look at how we've been able to make strides forward and progress, that has been the winning coalition in America, and specifically in regards to what we're trying to do. When you look at John Brown, when you look at Thaddeus Stevens, when you look at all these different other people, Justice Curtis, when you look at the lawyer for Plessy, I mean for Homer Plessy, when what was his name? Uh, I forget the
I'll
lawyer's
be
name.
on tour, Jay.
Yeah, Albion Tourge, right? And so when we look at all these, who came up with the term colorblind justice and impaneled freedmen on juries and went against this thing, and was they like you have a lot of people. You have the brother that writ the unconstitutional with the white American that wrote the book The Unconstitutionality of Slavery, Lycina Spooner, right? That has always been the coalition of progress here in America. It has not really been, there's no evidence that if we lock arms with Africans, we were going to make some type of progress here in America. That's just, there's no evidence for that in any significant metric. And so I think when we latch on to Pan-Africanism, it really takes us away from America. And it really takes us away from having an American-centered perspective and our interests being here in America. You when you take on that ideology, you start saying things like "I'm not American," and we see that as being a deterrent to get our people involved in politics and get them involved in the voting now. Like, we've always understood that we had an uphill battle here in this country, but Frederick Douglass and Fannie Lou Hamer and W.B. Du Bois and all these people, they never told us that we're not American and to quit. But it's the injection of this Pan-African doctrine that says, you know what, forget all the blood, sweat, and tears and equity that you've poured into this country. Let's go back to being African. And then that really has been a disastrous mission drift for the freedmen, have taken us off the course of progress here. And so when we embrace something that we don't know, none of us, like, you can't fully embrace being Fulani or Hausa or Mandinka or Yoruba or any of that stuff. You can't fully embrace that, but you can fully embrace being a Mississippian, a Alabamian, a Georgian, you know what I'm saying, a Virginian. Like, you can fully embrace that stuff because that's what you know. That's what you know without a shadow of a doubt. That's where your ancestral burial grounds are at. That's where your sacred grounds at. That's where we call home. These are our places that we built the strongest country in the world from. And I think we really need to have an American freedman centered philosophy and not a Pan African or an African centered philosophy. I think that really does a lot of damage into the way we even look through our political lenses, into thinking America second and Freedmen second and Africa first and Africa second, while we still, have representatives who approve and pass legislation to send billions and billions of dollars to African nations, and they don't invest into the freedmen. I just think that that's a big problem. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, brother Logic. I wanted to say on that too. I mean, how many times Logic and Angie and Arthur, Naeem and Cynthia, oh my gosh, Kelly and all gas, no brakes on Code Brother. How many times have we been having conversations and with people that I love talking to Pan African. I love doing it because I mean, I was there. I was right there with them in the struggle before I understood and the scales fell from my eyes with the data, the knowledge, the information. And I mean, even talking to, some of the brothers and sisters, and it's like, okay, how many languages you speak? All right, what is your, and they'll tell me about their mitochondrial DNA, but your mitochondrial DNA over the course of whatever generations, 50 generations, doesn't tell you who the other people are on your paternal side. It does not tell you about the culture of the people and who is all in between that you're missing. So I don't want to hear about mitochondrial DNA. I wanted to hear about what you know and who your people are in this country, because that's a huge difference. On that, I'll land and let Naeem take the mic.
Yeah, peace, peace. Excellent breakdowns. I just love these spaces, man. And I want to camel back off of what Brother Devon was saying when he was speaking about the white supremacy element of Pan-Africanism. Right? There is a more, that was one of the things that I uncovered, that there is more of a direct line than we think. And it's through what Malcolm called the foxes, right? The liberals, the ones that smile in our face, but will chew us up, you know what I'm saying, at any given moment. And a lot of these people are in line with the Democrats in a way that I don't think people are putting enough focus on, right? When you look at Sheila Jackson Lee, right, she becomes the face of our angst, because we know what she's doing. We know that she, along with Ron Daniels and what's the other guy, Cam Howard, and all of their underlings like Jam, et cetera, these people are basically the people that we see out in the front that are sabotaging things. We're seeing it now with the California Reparations Task Force push. But, you got to look a little bit deeper, right? Because there's some connectivity there via Pan-Africanism. You look at somebody like Digital Sister, Shireen Mitchell. She was on MSNBC calling the hashtag cult a bunch of bots. Why? Why would they bring this Pan-Africanist woman, whom we come to find out has connections with Narcan and Cobra, onto MSNBC to go at what we thought was a reparationist movement in ADOS? Why? Right? And I start putting these pieces to the puzzle together. You look at people like Roland Martin, who calls reparations a pipe dream, has spoken against reparations in one breath, spoken for it in another breath, depending on which way the Democratic political party winds blow. But then you have to think, who does he have on his panel? Staunch Afrocentrists like Greg Carr, whose Twitter handle is @AfricanCarr. You see, this thing is layered in a way that, we see it, but I just wanted to point this out to those in the audience that may not understand the other side of white supremacy's element in this blockage that is our push for reparative justice. And I just wanted to give that to the people. Peace.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much, brother Naeem. Sister Cynthia, the mic is yours.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Sister Ross. And
I haven't heard of Cynthia. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I spoke earlier, but I've been in and out of the room because baby. Anyway, I first off, thank you guys again for hosting this room. But I did want to piggyback specifically from the brothers Logic and Naheem and some of the things that they have said. Especially when we're talking about who is necessarily behind some of the sabotage that we have been seeing when it comes to reparative justice for freedmen descendants, and also how and who is actually at the head of it versus people who we think would be in line with them, but not necessarily so. And what do I mean by that? Well, I think that one of the things that we should always be conscious of is that the people who have a tendency to have this flat blackness type sensibility when it comes to reparative justice and policy specifically that's supposed to be designed for us, they are of a minority because the rank and file members or the rank and file populace of those people don't really share those sentiments. I just got a message from a brother in Barbados who saw an interview that I did with the Freedom from Religion Foundation when I was talking specifically about reparations for the descendants of chattel slavery, descendants of chattel slaves now deemed as freedmen by legislative nomenclature and political status in 1865. And they asked me specifically, hey, can we use you as a resource speaker because we heard your interview and about you all that's in here in the state's fight for reparations. We are trying to do the same thing here in Barbados, but not once within our exchange did they denigrate our fight here in America, and very much so understood the specificity point from which who is supposed to be receiving reparations due to who specifically endured the harm and how that harm has perpetuated itself from generation to generation. And I get why you do have Pan-Africanism, especially when you think about how deep and dark and traumatic the institution of chattel slavery was, and then followed by another 100 years of Jim Crow and all the ills that have been placed after that. And it's very difficult to take your mind and try to identify with Americanism per se when America has been the main source of your trauma. But one of the things that James Baldwin said is that, and I'm paraphrasing, He said that I love this country so much that I have the right to criticize her when she has done wrong to her citizens. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically in the crux of what he said. He talked about being very much so American, very much so loving this country because his ancestors built it and he lives here. And even though he left here because of all the racial animus that was happening at that time period, he never stopped identifying being American, and he never stopped really loving the country. He just hated the the behaviors of the people who were in power, and how they were using their power to be oppressive to his group of people, our group of people. And I think that that's a lot of times what Pan-Africans who happen to be very loud and wrong are missing when we're having these conversations. They call a lot of us who happen to be of the mindset of specificity and rooting our claim in being American wrong. And they call us wrong because they say that we are leaning towards white supremacy, or if we're talking about specificity, we are being xenophobic. And I can't speak for every person in the movement, and I'm not going to, but specificity is never about, downgrading any other group of people. It's just about saying that, hey, this particular harm was done to a particular group of people, not to everybody. And not everybody who even shares, as you said, Roz, melanin, have absorbed that harm. And it's not that you cannot see or research this information. It's quite prevalent and very much so known, regardless of how much the GOP decides that they want to ban critical race theory. So I think that it's important for us to continue to have that particular lens focused on why specificity and why it needs to be rooted in Americanism. And those who happen to be of the Pan-African sensibility, you can do that all you want. But at the same time, you are muddying the waters when you are taking this ideology and trying to insert it into legislation that's supposed to be specifically for a group of people that have been harmed by such atrocities of policies that came from the federal government on down. And even when I had an exchange with one of the Cobra handlers on Twitter, when I was asking them, are you going to have the same big chestedness in your voice and bravado to Jamaica, who has people specifically telling England and the Queen that they owe money to Jamaicans for slavery in the transatlantic slave trade and the like. And they told me specifically, no, that's a sovereign country full of sovereign people for their own justice claim. And I'm like, then why in the HE double hockey sticks are you trying to tell American Negroes that they're supposed to go ahead and open up the floor for everybody who considers themselves Black in the United States in order for them to receive reparations? You're not willing to do that in another country. Then why would you want to do it here? And and as much as like I don't necessarily tie on to conspiracy theory, but I would have to agree with you, Brother Naheem, when you start to connect the dots at the actions of some of these people, it makes you wonder what is their real intent behind all of this. I mean, Arthur made me aware that JAM AWAR received $500,000 from the MacArthur Foundation. And how Narcan and Cobra is also getting money for, supposed advocacy from the same foundation. This is the same people who fund PBS programming. And I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I love PBS and NPR. But at the same time, you still have to look at where's the money coming from to vote to fuel such advocacy when we're going when it comes to intention is completely off kilter. So I think it's important to continue to have these conversations and make our people aware, because not enough of us are politically astute to the point where we can actually start to see these particular things see even some of the disasters, like Brother Cato mentioned about Evanston, and seeing how it affects us as a constituency in the United States. And even like when we're starting to look at, what the federal government is willing to do for Ukraine, and then you got HBCUs like Hampton University offering free tuition and room and board. I told my mother about this, and she had a daggum fit. She's like, how they gonna do that when you still got Black folk that's right here in the United States that still need an education and they can't afford it, you know? So all these particular things definitely need to be highlighted. I'm so glad that we do have a group of people that is still willing to actually do the work in order for these things to be brought to light, and also for us to have these conversations and effectively, work on making sure that proper legislation is done. And for that, I'll yield back. Thank you for letting me offer my 5 cents, a dime, and a nickel.
All right. Thank you, Sister Cynthia, on that. And I wanted to just, just interject or dovetail on what you said, which is really important. In contacting NAARC and Cobra, or having a dialogue with them, they honestly feel that since they were, I think, and then Cobra was instituted, or one of them, back in 1987, the fall of 1987, that because they've been in this fight for 35 years, that they're the utmost authority. They should have control over what happens with reparations. And they really don't have time to dialogue with the rest of us. Now, that's putting a hierarchy on our own, within our own people. And actually, some of their board members are not even freedmen. They're not from descendants of chattel slaves in this country. So you got people that are constantly coming in and telling us what we should do or shouldn't do with our own reparations. And that, to me, is highly, highly problematic. I think Logic, you were next, then Divine, then Feared.
I went 1 second, sister. I just wanted to say this really
sorry,
quickly.
I didn't see Oscar Trent too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say this real quick. When I'm talking about having, discourse and dialogue, I mean, we already know the NAARC and Cobra is basically a closed face. They're not really trying to hear anybody that's trying to be specific when it comes to these particular topics, especially when it comes to reparations. I'm talking about our people, because like I mentioned previously, we still have a huge portion of our population that is not politically astute and not necessarily aware of all the, the ongoing, issues that we are facing as a people. I mean, like, I can even think of myself who, came into this particular movement, who was woefully ignorant a few years ago when it came to the data of how, we are as a people. I just knew something was wrong, but I just really couldn't, I just didn't have the language around it. So that's why I was like, really like, yes, we need to be pushing more of these particular spaces and dialogues between our people so that we can get them together. Because if we can get them together politically in their mindset, then we can activate them politically in the atmosphere, so that we can really push towards what is rightfully owed to us. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just saying, for people that may not know, that saying, well, why don't we just not you, Cynthia, not you, Sister Cynthia, but other people that are in this Twitter space or may listen at another time, say, well, why don't we just go and talk to our brothers and sisters? Why don't we just do that? Well, I mean, we've tried so many times and ways to go in and have dialogue and have these kinds of conversations, and they're as benign neglect as the Democratic Party, if not worse. I mean, actually, I think they're worse, because they're not getting voted in. It's like they're self-appointed. And as a grassroots, if you've ever grassroots organized before, it's hard to deal with somebody who's a self-appointed dictator. That it's their way or the highway. And who's going to vote them out, because they've put themselves in that position. So keep that in mind. So we've tried to have dialogue and discourse and conversation, and it's just they don't allow you in. They're the steel curtain. It's benign neglect. And then you stand back and say, wait a minute, who are you that I owe you even conversation? So it never happens. Even if you go to their town halls, I've been on them, others have been on them. If they know your face or whatever, they basically kick you out and nothing gets accomplished other than them really just patting one another on the back. You've done a great job. Doing what? On that, I'll let Brother Logic, Divine, and Fear. I'm sorry, Osric Pratt, I see you down there, but your hand wasn't up. So I don't know when you came in, so I apologize. Angie, Arthur, if you know, then, but I know Logic was there. So, Logic.
Please, uh, 1 second. Let me make sure y'all can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me.
We can hear you fine. How
Hear
about
me?
Logic? You go, then Osric Pratt. How about that, Divine? I'm sorry, and then Fear this.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you sound a little bit further back now. You sound like you're on the radio.
I'm on the speaker phone, but am I clear, or do I need to speak?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And so I mean, that was some really good, powerful commentary, and what I really would like to
We kind of get back. Hello, can y'all hear me? Oh yeah, and
Uh-huh.
so my bad. I'm sorry about that, y'all. And so
Yeah.
what I really would like to touch on though is like the what Divine and Naheem was talking about with the white supremacy connection with Pan Africanism, and some people be like, well, what does that really mean? And so when they say like Pan Africans are kind of doing the work of white supremacists when they come over here with this opposing or this not this unparalleled idea of repairing damage that really is not their damage. It's not their damage, right? And so what you have in Africa is colonism, right? And so what you have in that type of structure is really black folks being the visual oppressive force on of their own people. So they're used to coming up seeing black folks oppress one another, right? In their class structures, it's African class on top of African class, and it's black oppression, for lack of a better term, right? For a shared understanding, you're talking about Africans oppressing other Africans, and you can't really see the white supremacist colonialism in behind the scenes. What's in your face is black oppression, and so that they're used to seeing that, and they're used to doing that. And the majority of the Africans that come over here come from a more affluent background and from families who are used to having that feeling of being superior to lower class black people, and that feeling and that mentality doesn't evaporate when they get over here. And so they tie in when they come here to America. You can go to these African shops, and they love white folks. They cater to white folks. They'll throw themselves in the mud so that white folks can walk over them so that their feet don't get wet and muddy. They love them. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it on many different examples all across the country. And so, and they'll look at us like, what do you want? And it's really crazy. But then it goes back to what Sister Cynthia was talking about insofar as like what our position should be, or what the original Freedmen position is on immigration, right? And so if we were to stay, I think Pan-Africanism has been a vehicle of mission drift for us and policy confusion, and we don't know what policies are beneficial to us. And we've been tricked with the Pan-African ideology that if we support immigration that brings people that look like us and have some complexion similarities with us, that's going to increase our voting potential and our political power here. But that has not been the case. But if we had stayed focused and stayed listening to the instruction and guidance of Frederick Douglass, W.B. Du Bois, A. Philip Randolph,
all who were strict immigration, they were immigration restrictionist. A. Philip Randolph being the most radical of the three that I just mentioned, but even Booker T. Washington, right? And so they all understood, and the further we've gotten away from our freedmen philosophy, we have embraced Pan-Africanism largely by following Marcus Garvey, who chose to go a different route than those freedmen who were on the ground working at that time. I mean, we got to be, so we have to be, right and exact about how we analyze what's going on. And I know a lot of people love Marcus Garvey. Listen, I come from a Pan-Africanist family. My stepfather was one of the founding members who created the African Festival in Chicago, Illinois. I was raised, so I understand the love that we were brought up on with Marcus Garvey. But we have to understand our true history and the consequences of taking on this Pan-African ideology and mindset. And we have embraced things that are harmful to us. And now we are importing or supporting the import of our replacement and people who can serve as overseers and look-alike oppressors for us, who have no problem doing it. They're in the work state place with you, right? You have people right now, instead of America investing into freedmen nurse programs where our sisters and brothers can go get the kind of grants and support they need to, because America says due to the health, the growth of the population and the health industry's necessity and demand for nurses, instead of investing domestically, they have companies that go out and give citizenship to Africans who have gotten their nurse training in Africa somewhere, and they come over here and give them the jobs that's for us. Like, it's really diabolical what's going on, but because we don't have a American freedman-centered perspective, we can't really see it. And so I really think it's dangerous for American freedmen to take on an African-centered, Pan-African mindset. And I think that's how you get people like Narcan and Cobra. That's how you get a freedman town like Houston to elect
I'm sorry. In my excitement, I made a mistake and hit the mute button. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And
Go ahead, Logic. I unmuted everybody.
geez, I got back on mute for some reason, but it, even when you talk about Houston, you talk about HR 40, which started out as a John Conyers, who was a freedman, bill. It ends up going and being delivered into the hands of a first generation Jamaican who now is the face of the bill, and Sheila Jackson Lee. How does that happen? And Houston and Dallas and many places in Texas ended up as freedmen towns. That Juneteenth, first Juneteenth celebration was in Texas. That was for the freedmen. And so it's a history that, Sheila Jackson Lee is not connected to and not rooted in. And I doesn't really understand, and I don't think it's the commitment is really there for that thing to be what it needs to be. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of problems when we get away from, our early freedmen plight. And I think if we just get back to Frederick Douglassism, and we get back to Raineyism, and we get back to, Hiram Revelism and Robert Smalls, and we get back to those freedmen statesmen and what they say, get back. A lot of us from the Pan-African community and ideology, they taught us that, people like W.B. Du Bois were coons and we shouldn't listen to them. Dr. Martin Luther King was a coon and we shouldn't listen to him. That's what Pan-African have been taught. That comes from an African-centered perspective and people who have taught and instructed and educated our people to look at some of the greatest people in the history of our progress as enemies to progress. We have to get back. And those are some of the people who have made the greatest strides for our people. So I think we really need to take a serious look at that and get back to Frederick Douglass, get back to, the freedmen. Frederick Douglass knew exactly what needed to be done. He prophesized into the future on what the labor situation would look like, what immigration impact could look like. He knew. Frederick Douglass knew. And we need to get back to the Freedman King's instructions and get back on the course. That's all I got.
I would
Okay.
also like to note, I would also like to say something in regards to Logic's point. The year of return, that was in preparation, this Pan-Africanism view, in preparation of reparations. I mean, the system of racialism sets up red flags to see what our responses are. I mean, the year of return, you actually saw Democrats on the continent espousing the year of return. You actually saw celebrities espousing the year of return. You know, again, this is in preparation. You know, history has a tendency of repeating itself, and that's one reason why they don't teach this shit in school. The same thing that our ancestors went through with the American colonization effort, again, in preparation for that effort, what did they do? They went into our churches and they got the elite pastors to side along with that. And again, our ancestors, just like we are now, rejected that shit. Again, we need to study history. We need to learn it well because it repeats again and again. I've landed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Angie. Osric Pratt. Thank you for your patience. Please unmute and speak. Osric Pratt.
Yes, yes, top of the morning, and peace to the host. I have a few quick questions. Can anyone confirm that the co-chair of Cobra, Cam Howard, has resigned? And considering Cam has been the spokesman for Cobra for almost 20 years, how do you think it will affect the Cobra leadership? And what else? And also, I'm inquiring about 3121. Should we be using this lack of leadership and the so-called accusations as a tool to eliminate the opposition? That's all I
Well,
really wanted to.
okay. Well, I've gotten information from at least two good sources that Cam has not resigned, but has been removed. Now, I have not, you know, totally substantiated this, but that could be what's happening. But if he has been removed, I'll give you some insight, my own insight as to why that might have happened. First of all, there might have been arguments about money. Lately, there's been a lot of money coming into the coffers of NAARC and Cobra, not just from the MacArthur Foundation. That's just the most public and most well-known source, but from at least two other white sources have been putting money into these organizations. Also, there may be some differences between him and Ron Daniels. Even though Ron Daniels on paper is the head of IBW and NAARC, in reality, he runs all three organizations, including the new organization called First Repair, which is being run by Robin Rue Simmons, the lady that started the reparations program in Evanston. Now, since whenever the MacArthur Foundation gives any Black organization money, the money is always accompanied with a set of instructions. And by that set of instructions, maybe part of the instructions is to get rid of Cam and put somebody in place in as far as being the head of in Cobra that's more to their liking. Okay, so at this point, and don't quote me on none of this stuff, this is what I see is going on. So I'm landing there.
Okay,
You had
thank you.
another question about AB 3121, or was that included?
Well, I was thinking, considering 3121, can lead our claim as freedmen, should we be using this this tool, this potential, I would say it's a tool. I think I would say there's been a few sources out there that saying Cam has been removed. Can we use that this tool, a lack of leadership to eliminate the opposition? Because this is going down in about a few weeks here in California, and we got to get to the bottom of it. We got to utilize the tools, everything we can to stop this.
Well, AB 3121 is actually a law, but what they're doing right now, and anybody that's in California that's been involved with, I've been in and out of it, but I mean, if anybody in California that's been a part of it on a daily basis, you can step in. But basically, AB 3121 is law. Gavin Newsom signed it into law last year. And basically what they've been working on is the specificity of who is this for, who is the reparative justice and the money and the benefits for AB 3121 for. So that's what's been the dialogue on AB 3121. And on the 29th, then, I mean, it's a law, but it hasn't, the specificity hasn't been hammered out. So that's been talked about. That's what we're trying to have people to see. And the NAARC and Cobra and their, I call it propaganda arm, IBW 21, have been trying to get people to say, hey, this is about reparations. And people are for reparations for us. However, they're not saying how they basically want to come in and commandeer the control of who is going towards and things of that nature. That's been, if you've been listening to any of the arguments, there are a couple people, Holder and Grills, on that committee that really want to kind of open it up to, and it's not fair. It's not fair. Well, guess what? That's like giving me benefits for prostate cancer. I'm a woman. That's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. So that's one of the things that we're trying to make sure that, we're helping get through to people's minds, is the specificity is for the freedmen. So the document we read today from Mother Audley Moore, Queen Mother Audley Moore, she had been a Pan-Africanist, but she specified in that document that's on bythepeoplemedia.com. You can pull it up, download it, print it. It gives her specific instruction of who reparations is for. So that can definitely be used and according to the argument that's been used up until this far. I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Divine, then fear this.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of jump on what you said earlier, because I think it kind of goes toward what I want, my point, and also what's been happening with other people that are maybe even new to this or just haven't done the research and the scholarship that we have up to this point. And when you said that, just because you just started doesn't mean we just started. Just because you came in or have been looking at this work or starting this work or got introduced to reparations 2 years ago doesn't mean we've been doing it for just 2 years. And I'm saying that to say, in accordance with some of the people that would say, why don't you just reach out to Narcan and Cobra or whatever the case is? Like, that's already been done. So just in case you didn't see it or you didn't know, that's already been done. And when you watch how they move, you understand what they're trying to do right now in New York City. The fellow activists that I'm working with here in New York City, what we're focusing on and getting geared up for is the fact that in Cobra and their subsidiaries, or these shadow organizations, whatever we want to call them. So it's in Cobra, IBW 21, and another one called the December 12th Movement. They have written themselves, in conjunction with Charles Barron, into the bill. I think that passed the House, hasn't gotten to the state Senate yet. But effectively what it does is it makes all three of those organizations, which we are learning are essentially the same people, the three organizations that will be selected from to be on the commission or the task force. So what that does is that just makes one person or one entity, gives them the monopoly over what reparations will look like, what the program is going to consist of, and have them in all the decision-making positions. So when you have a group like that is moving in that way, you understand that they're not looking for coalition building. They're not looking for to bring anybody in. they're looking to own and control and dominate the conversation on reparations on a local scale so that they can eventually control it on the national scale. And again, just to what Brother Naheem and Logic were talking about, when you see someone that moves like that, that sounds a lot like white supremacy. And, so we have to be very aware and astute on what's going on with this organization specifically, and the way that they move. And I have one more point. I'm trying to get it together in my mind because I definitely want to hit on that. Right. So also in addition to that, when we look at, we were talking, I think Sister Cynthia talked about this, or maybe somebody piggybacking on what she said about like the money and how these organizations are being paid off. And again, this goes more toward the connection with white supremacy. We know it's two wings of the same bird. So a lot of times we just think of right-wing white supremacy, and we kind of neglect left-wing white supremacy, right? And so when we think about these organizations that are being paid by a lot of these left-wing white supremacist groups that would love nothing more than to, like Angie said, to just continue in the status quo, which is what we're in right now. What we have, I think it was either NCOBRA or NAARC got paid, I think it was $1.5 million not too long ago by either the MacArthur Foundation or someone else for non-lobbying activities that will push forward reparations for the descendants of slaves in America and for the global diaspora. So if they're giving you money and you can't lobby anybody with it, you can't do anything politically savvy with it, it's like, then that's nothing. That's to keep you silent. That's to keep you, like Brother Arthur Ward said, like that just keep you indebted, because when that money comes, it comes with parameters, it comes with qualifications, it comes with stipulations. So we know they've been deemed ineffective. And then when we look at some of the other things that they've done in regards to reparations that was tied to the ice cream company, right? And they were doing something with I think it was in Portland. Yes, right. They were Ben and Jerry's for reparations, and they did something with a beer company. I think it was in Portland. And then not only that, they had another organization that was online. I'm not sure if it's defunct now. They're just keeping a low profile, but it was supposed to be an organization of white people that were pushing for reparations as an ally group, but then they were online espousing white feminism talking points against Black American men that were advocating for reparations. So, and that's all these organizations and initiatives are tied to NAARC and COBRA. So it's just a shit show of non-serious activity around reparations advocacy. And lastly, I'll say is, for those that don't know, kind of tied into this whole clusterfuck of what's going on with voting, and Logic talked about this right now. In New York City, the city council passed a law that's going to allow non-citizens to vote, and it goes live in 2023. But right now, there is a organization, for full transparency, right wing, that is bringing a lawsuit against the New York State Board of Elections to stop this. And again, myself and some of the other New York City advocates and reparationists, we have signed on to that and are in full support of this lawsuit. And so in an interview that's going to go live in April, I interviewed the president and general counsel of the organization that is bringing this lawsuit on. And we spoke, and, we were talking about just our various organizations, our quote unquote legacy organizations that should be fighting for the freedmen, that should be fighting on our behalf to keep our political priorities at the forefront. And one of the things that he said to me in the interview that really got my antennas up, after I told him, specifically that we don't have, how the freedmen are moving now, we're nonpartisan, and we're moving in a way in which we don't have any permanent friends or permanent enemies, just permanent interests, right? And so he spoke about how if you look at the financial statements of a lot of the legacy organizations, you will understand why they are not fighting against this non-citizens voting bill, and why they are beholden to immigration and mass immigration, even legal immigration, because of where their money is coming from. And so, we know the cliche of follow the money, but what we've come to find out, what we're coming to realize as the longer we do this work in this field and in this arena, is that a lot of the organizations that are supposed to fight for us are already beholden to white money. And whether that's right wing white supremacist money or left wing white supremacist money, they are beholden to the money and they have been bought out a long time ago. And I could speak directly to what he's talking about because as a member of the Brooklyn NAACP, which allows me to get on calls and do some other shit, right? So I was on there, and when this came up, I asked who from the organization or what is the NAACP's official stance on this bill, and it came from the New York State level, and they endorsed it. Not only did they endorse it, but it was also the NAACP. It was the Urban League, and it was NAN. Just some of the organizations that are quote unquote supposed to be for our demographic, supposed to be us, started for us, by us, that are beholden to mass immigration because of where their money is and because it's politically astute for the people that are in charge of those organizations, not specifically the people that they're supposed to represent. So, I know we were all raised up for such a time as this, but I want us to just know and kind of drive the point home that we are, not only are we our ancestors' wildest dreams, we are their last hope, right? And our last hope. Like, we're the only people right now out here fighting for us specifically and are not beholden to big money and aren't bought off. And I just pray that we stay the course and that all of us will maintain the integrity that I've seen from us at this point, to not be bought off, not be silenced, not be sold off, and just continue to stay in the fight. And because we all we got.
Thank you for that, Devon. Yes, absolutely. And that's another thing. I could have put that up there too. NAN, National Action Network with Al Sharpton. Puppet Masters. I mean, come on. Puppet Masters for Narcan and Cobra and IBW 21, because all of a sudden, they've Al Sharpton and his organization, NAN's been around for the longest, and they advocate things that are ineffective. And they had, they came to DC and they were marching, and what's happened, what's changed. They talked up, they didn't even really, they showed it on the news for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, because I live in the DMV, and that's it. That was all. That's the show. So nothing has happened. There was no specific demands. They come in and they make and people actually think that these people are doing something for our people. They actually think they're, I mean, when have you heard or seen Nan advocating for reparations and really pushing for it? I haven't seen or heard anything about it. They just pop up every so often and they do a church ceremony and then they're gone. And people think, oh, they're Nan, they're doing something for us. One of the things I've always said is like, the NAACP and Urban, they go in whatever direction they're going in. They're not powered by us, the people that actually know and have direction. They're powered by the money that pays them. So that's the problem. And we think that, oh, they're looking out for our best interest. No, we're looking out for our own best interest. Time for us to grow up and show up. And on that, brother, fear this.
Yeah, I'm. That's some powerful stuff. I think with what Devon has said, I think I'm adding to a lot of what everybody's saying. For what I want to say, we got to look at also. Just keep in mind about a lot of the HBCUs have Boule influence with the chancellors and the presidents. I know from when I was in school back in the '90s, I was at A&T, and even at that school. Nobody really, a lot of people did not like Jesse Jackson. And when I got a wind of it, started studying, I started seeing that, oh, I see why, because he had a lot to do with MLK's assassination. And I think,
Wait, wait. Hold on. Brother Theodore, we're not going to go into any kind of real speculation like this
yeah,
because
okay, I'm not trying to get into
that's
speculation, but I would just give you some references because,
absolutely.
like, Steve Copeland can give you a lot of that. And you can go back and look at that. That's been broken down. But I'm trying to get back to how when you're looking at Jesse Jackson and you're looking at how his Rainbow Push coalition came on to be, that was setting up for a lot of the immigration with the congressional caucuses that came after the Black caucus, with the Hispanic, the Asian, And I'm not just trying to just make it to that as far as just saying the carcasses, but they came out all around the same time. But looking at how the Pan-Africanism and everything, it just you have to get back to when dealing with reparations is not so much about repatriation back to Africa and dealing with uh, how NAARC and Cobra, they basically are muddying the waters. We're speaking about Africa so much. It's not even about Africa. It's about what happened to the enslaved descendants who became freedmen, and then they got debunked for so many of initiatives that was being done specifically for the freedmen. That's where it has to come back to as far as the education. And now is it like Divine said, we're just in line to keep up with the real narrative. Get back to what as how we have with United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, be the power. Keep on with the heat, the real heat, so that we can stay on this because we're already there. We got to stay on that and make it that the people in our communities can see it and they can have references. They can have everything aligned so that they can see what's really going on, what we're really doing. So I just want to keep like that. I know my mind's everywhere, but I wanted to say some more stuff, but keep it moving, y'all.
All right, brother Theaters. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, you put in my mind a few things that we're gonna definitely work on some spaces in the future, but definitely with this again closing things out because I don't see anybody else waiting in line. If I'm mistaken, Angie or Arthur, you can come in and let me know. But it is 3:03, so we've been on for about 4 hours, and this has been the By the People Media uh and along with, of course, we're going to bring in our family from Chicago, brother Arthur Ward, that's given great insight, and sister Angie from Baltimore, that's given amazing information. And of course, our brothers from By the People Media and United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen.org, and Sister Cynthia, Brother Divine from New York, Freedmen. I mean, we got some Freedmen, and Sister Kelly from the Nevada Freedmen. I mean, we got some powerful insights from this document. Thank you again, Brother Arthur Ward, and I'll let Arthur and Angie say their piece before I close us out. And thank you, everybody that participated and that sat in and listened to our breakdown. Hold on. I'm sorry, Tony Blunt. Tony wanted to speak. Tony, you can speak, sir.
What's going on? First off, I've been listening for like the last 30 minutes or so. It's been a really good conversation. So I don't think there's a lot more for me to add. I just want to reiterate something Divine said because I really feel like people need to like take it home with them and sit on it. And that is the stuff that we're talking about with NARC and in Cobra, with NAN and all that. This stuff is not happening in a vacuum. And I say that because we need to understand, for all of those of us who have been doing this work for a while, the more we shake things up, the more that happens, they will also come for you. And when I say come for you, I mean there's going to be money thrown around. You're going to see organizations popping up. You're going to see sly little people offering you help, whether it's in your DMs, whether it's phone call, whether it's coming out to your events. I promise you, like, they will come eventually, because there's no way possible to move the needle and not have that happen. And I'm gonna tell you, within this work, just from what I've seen, they've already been doing that with certain people. They work to get you off the track. They're gonna offer you jobs. They're gonna offer you your organization grants and stuff. So just be cognizant of the stuff that came before, and this stuff we see happening with other people. Because I truly believe that a lot of these people that we're dealing with in Narcan and Cobra, that they started out much like we did. They started out with great intentions, and they'll figure out what it is that you want and what it is that you need, and they'll go for that. Like, we are a wealthless people, and because we are a wealthless people, that makes us vulnerable. That makes us vulnerable because, on top of doing this work, there's so many of us that are just trying to get from paycheck to paycheck. They're just trying to survive. So, I'm just gonna say again, like,
be on your P's and Q's and decide what you're really about, because they're definitely going to be coming. And I'll just leave it at that. And I appreciate this great conversation. Peace.
All right, thank you, brother Tony Blunt. Yeah, I mean, it's like that sounds just like the devil. It's find out what you want, what you're lacking, where your weakness is. Of course, ours is in wealth and having money in our pocket, and then just go after that and take like maybe the most effective speakers, the most powerful people or organizations, and be able to co-opt it. That right there, in and of itself, is something that we're lacking in. But other than us having the willpower to say no, and being able to let others know that this is happening. So, because it is happening, because it's always been a strategy, and just being able to be aware. So, I wanted to give Arthur another opportunity. I don't know if he had stepped away or couldn't get in. If not, I'm about to close out the space. Again, thank you for everybody that participated. And I don't see him unmuting the mic. So thank you again, Sister Angie, brother.
There's Arthur. There's
Okay.
Arthur.
Arthur, come on in, brother. You were the man with the plan and found the book. You did the look to find the book. So come in and speak to the people, please. Arthur? Man,
Uh-oh.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell y'all this. Arthur's probably, opening up another bottle and chilling, because I think it was a connection issue. I don't know, but y'all got a lot of great information here. I know it's a lot of information to cover. That's why it was recorded, and we're going to again, put it on to By the People Media webpage, bythepeoplemedia.com. And of course, the publication in its original form, the PDF is available there. Going to close everything out, and y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And don't forget, brothers from Be the Power are having something on at 6 o'clock tonight. So check that out. And peace and blessings and reparations. Arthur's still here. Hold on a second, Arthur. Go ahead, Arthur. You close us down, brother.
Yes, hello.
Yes, sir. You go
We
ahead.
can hear
You
you.
close it down.
Yeah,
I'm out. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, my mic keeps freezing up on this app. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I mainly agreed to do this for the purpose of extracting commentary from the audience. It went a little slow at first, but after you guys got in rhythm, y'all was going. And I'm glad everybody came to give their piece. But again, I'm glad that everyone appreciates the work that Queen Mother Moore actually did for us. And I think it was, I'm not, you all know I'm not religious, but I think it was kind of prophetic for this thing to be suppressed for so long. And now it has resurfaced at the right time for us to make the most use of it. So I do appreciate all of you. I hope that you guys study this document, come up with even more ideas in connection with it, and let's make effective use of this in order to get what we need in terms of reparations. And I'm landing there. That's all I have to say.
All right. Peace and reparations, family. We're out. Enjoy your Sunday.
Thank you all.